Curtis, how are you, buddy?
Good. How are you, man?
You know what? Can't complain. Thanks for calling. Thanks for letting me do this at 11 o'clock.
Thank you for being flexible. I'll kind of explain when we talk, but
Yeah.
these
So,
these last few days have been crazy.
no
So I
kidding.
appreciate the flexibility.
No, I appreciate you having some time to talk. Remind me, what I know you do radio, but what is your current job?
So my current job title is sports producer
Hmm.
slash sports producer technically is the title, but I do a lot of game reporting for WGN Radio for Blackhawks and the White Sox. I also do a few other projects for the talk shows on the station too, such as Dave Plyer on Friday nights, Pete McMurray Sunday afternoons, and our sports talk show, Sports Central, which goes from 6 to 10 on Saturday nights.
Okay.
So that's why my schedule's kind of been all over the place. Not only just that, but with working from home during the week, it's been a crazy time.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, let me just ask. How you feeling? I know you're not. I mean, you're not quarantined. You're not isolated. You're still going to work. So hats off to you. How's that been?
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. I mean, I kind of had this feeling that we were going to be doing this regardless. The saying goes, radio never sleeps,
Yeah.
and that's kind of goes with any media form for that example. Thankfully, with radio, the technology is more advanced, especially in this day and age where we can record stuff and do shows from house. Like all of our hosts, and really with the exception of a few, are doing all their shows from home,
Hmm.
thanks to the technology for that. And also the producers, with the exception of a few as well, are usually working from home and also taking care of the majority of the stuff from home, while another producer for our full-time shows, there's usually two producers for our morning drive and evening drive shows, and one of them is usually at home and the other one is usually at the station. So it's a very, very minimal staff. But for me, my hours have been cut back a lot,
Hmm.
especially with the sports world being put on hold. I
Yeah.
mean, I was working the Blackhawks game Wednesday, March 11th, the night when basically shit hit the fan, if you will.
Yeah.
When we found out Tom Hanks got it, when we found out the NBA was canceling it, and it was just unreal to watch kind of the world, quote unquote, end on Twitter of all places, while you're sitting there also trying to watch a hockey game and do your job there too. So it's been a crazy last 2.5, 3 weeks or so.
Yeah. So here we go. I want your opinions. Let's just start with the basic yes or no's. Will the NHL resume their season?
If I had to make a guess, I would say yes,
Okay. Will
but
it?
I'm not very optimistic on that. Yes.
Okay. If it's so, are we looking at what the NBA is looking at, which is no fans?
Possibly,
Okay.
but I also would think that because the NHL is so far in their season, and the playoffs for the NHL could go over the course of an extra 2 months.
Hmm.
I would assume that what the league would look into is probably just starting the playoffs right from the get-go,
Yeah.
and to try to still award a Stanley Cup champion. I don't know how sports are even going to really kind of get back into the swing of things with everything that's been taking place. Because normally for a sport like hockey, the Stanley Cup Finals will go, or playoffs will go, all the way until usually early June.
Yeah.
And with them and the NBA sharing locker rooms for a lot of these arenas, if the NBA is still going to be closed out, or if the NBA comes back and they start doing it with no fans, I mean, they're going to have to do some really either deep cleaning, or they're going to have to try to maybe find a neutral zone or a neutral site where they can let the games go. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know how that'll work, but you got to also think of the athletes first, and how are they going to get protected through all of this? Are they going to be, coming back at some point and take tests and make sure that they're all negative with the coronavirus? Are they going to come back at some point and continue that? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very interesting pan of events from when we get closer to May, I would say, and then we'll see kind of where leagues will go. And I would assume by May we would probably get an idea of if those seasons will continue or not, and if they even award a champion at that point. But I'm still optimistic. I'm a glass half full guy.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that at some point some big breakthrough will come through, and hopefully we'll get sports back soon.
So are you saying, because I know the NBA players, a lot of the teams and most of the teams have been tested. Have any of the NHL players been tested?
Not that, I don't know about tested. I'm sure a couple of them have, but in terms of cases becoming public, none of the major NHL players, like at the actual NHL level, have been tested. I think a few players in the minors or in like the super minors, I guess you could call them, where there's a few other hockey leagues based in Canada and here in the U.S. I think a few of those players might have tested positive. I'd have to go back and double check on that, but none of the professionals in the NHL have been confirmed, at least as of that I know of.
Okay. So I also know, I really feel like a reporter right now. This is fantastic. I should really go put on my suit. So I know a couple days ago was originally going to be opening day for baseball. As of looking at right now, we don't know when, or do we? Do we know when baseball might come back? Are we looking at May again? Are we looking at June, you think? What do you think we're going on the stands as a baseball is?
Well, as of right now, baseball has delayed their season until May.
Okay.
And the players' union and the owners have come to a recent agreement within the last, I would say, 3 or 4 days that there will be a season played, whether or not that means the playoffs go into December, which normally baseball kind of wraps up around Halloween. I can't imagine watching a World Series game maybe indoors, on TV, like on Christmas, which normally the NBA by that point would be in full swing. It's kind of weird to think about that. I know baseball's been exploring that, but that would also mean that if you have a team, like if both the Cubs and the White Sox, for example, make it to the playoffs,
can you imagine that?
And it's December.
Yeah.
I can't imagine them being any baseball World Series games at Wrigley Field or Guaranteed Rate Field. I would imagine that baseball would probably look into getting those games in a Florida or a Texas or a Southern California sort of neutral site where both teams involved would have to go and play there, and versus one having a quote-unquote home field advantage over another. So that's kind of the way I would think that baseball would kind of go about it, would be having a neutral site for a World Series matchup, and to kind of just have all 7 games there, or no home or away in that instance, with the exception of just trying to place in terms of like home field advantage or whatnot, I guess you could say.
So what's this report I'm hearing of reduced games? Is it because of the pandemic and we're already losing a bunch of games with everything going on? Is that a possibility?
Well, for which sport? Because it kind of affects particularly every sport. I mean, for example, like I was talking about earlier, with hockey, you could be done by late May, typically in a regular season, or early June. And if, let's say hockey, if they do decide to pick it up and they start the playoffs in June, and if that goes until end of July, maybe early August, I mean, then the teams who participate in the playoffs wouldn't have a lot of time to get rest and have a really normal off season. And same with the other organizations, if they're going to draft players and whatnot. Because for a lot of these sports, with the exception of baseball, the drafts, that when they draft young players, that's all during the off season.
Yeah. Free
agency period is all done during the off season. Baseball, their draft is actually held in season. I know baseball's already talked about if they do have a season, that they wouldn't have a draft this year. They would have a draft next year. But for a lot of these sports, I mean, like I was saying, hockey, if your season goes until August or early August at the latest, then you have to turn around and get set up for a whole new season of 82 games in September with preseason.
Jesus.
That's a really quick turnaround to try to get in a draft, to try to get in the free agency period.
Yeah.
That's why I think a lot of teams are hopeful that it's May where things kind of pick up the pace. But, the more I said yes earlier, but now the more I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm not sure
Well,
if we'll even have that.
I mean, why can they look at reducing playoff schedules like a round one? Like I remember back in the NBA and during the mid '90s, it was a best of 5 for the first round instead of a best of 7. We get quicker on that.
Yeah, that's an option. That would certainly shorten up the playoff series by a couple of games, which could maybe shorten it by about a week. But ultimately, what it depends upon is time-wise when it comes to how the other teams are playing too. Because if 8 teams in the NBA make it to the postseasons out of each conference, because that's what the NBA does. So 16 teams are in there.
Yeah.
And if 10 of them go to full 5 games, you're still going to have a winner and move on to the next round, but you're still going to have those series going the full distance. I mean, that could be a possibility, but it probably would save you maybe a week or 2 in terms of potential time, which also doesn't really add up if you're looking at to try to get a full off season in, which a lot of these players that are based on routine and when they finish a season early, they like that their bodies need that break, whether it be from injury or whatnot, to recover for a little bit of an extended period of time before they start picking it back up again. These guys don't live 9 to 5 jobs like anybody else does typically. So they're in a unique circumstance, and I can't imagine a place where sports would be at the point where it could return and go to a best of 7. You might have a best of 5. Maybe they go down to a best of 3.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a possibility too, but I think the big picture here is revenue. And if they can get fans in, great. But ultimately what it comes down to in a playoff series, when you want to push it to the limit, is you want to get the most income that you can, and that is selling tickets.
Yep.
That's selling concessions. That's selling beer. That's selling everything that you can possibly buy at a arena event, or even at a Major League Baseball stadium or whatever. So far, the only sport that doesn't seem to be super affected is football.
Yeah.
Because they've had their full off season, and Tom Brady broke the world and kind of distracted everybody a little bit.
Isn't this great?
By saying he's going to Tampa Bay.
Isn't this great? Like people wanted the NFL to hold off on their deadlines and free agency, but this is the only thing people are talking about is football in the world of sports, which has been very nice. It gives us something else to think about besides this pandemic. So I'm fine with all of this. Real quick, Bears. Where are they? Do we see? Is this a good time to be a Bears fan, or is it less optimistic as before?
I think it's a good time to be a Bears fan. I think now more so than the last 5 years of what it used to be.
Yeah.
When the team was just obviously rebuilding. Mm-hmm. What happened last year wasn't the greatest, but I think bringing in Nick Foles will hopefully let a little bit of a fire under Mitchell Trubisky and kind of get him to hopefully get back to where he was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When he led the team to the playoffs, and of course they lost in the double doink to Philly. But bringing in Nick Foles will add in that competition, and also it just adds another veteran quarterback that the team could use, and that can actually play at a high level. Nothing against Chase Daniel, but I mean, Chase Daniel has made almost like $60 million being a backup quarterback, and he's not even that great. So with all that being said, you get 2 really high-level quarterbacks in there to possibly try to lead this team to a Super Bowl. And, of course, they added needed help on the tight end position with Jimmy Graham. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that will turn out to be a little bit of a plus, because I don't think Jimmy Graham is going to be the tight end that we saw him 10 years ago when he was with the Saints or with the Seahawks, but he's definitely got a little bit left in the tank to show. And then also bolstering up on that defensive line with the signing they made from the guy from Dallas. That'll be huge, and hopefully having an extra body up there as a threat alongside Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack. The defense looks great. Nothing wrong on that end.
No.
It's going to be the offense that's going to be the question. And and they addressed the quarterback situation, which was
That
needing to be addressed. So
yeah.
we'll have to see how the season plays out, if there's even a season.
Yeah, do you feel less? You feel like there's going to be a season, or we're not even close to thinking about that yet?
Well, thankfully for the NFL, like I was saying, the NFL is really doing one that's safe right now because their season pretty much starts in September.
Yeah.
And late August, early September. So that's very far away. Now they're doing the NFL draft, and normally they'd be in a city, and lots of the college players would be getting dressed up in suits and getting all set up for this huge event that was once held here in Chicago. I think 4 or 5 years ago, it was here in Chicago, and it was just it's a great event to attend because it's free.
Yeah.
And if you're a football fan, you can just go around and just explore, which is cool.
Yeah.
Will there be a draft? Yes, but it'll probably be all remote. That's what I would expect it to be, at least.
Yeah.
Will there be a season? I think out of all the sports right now, the football is probably the safest to bet that there probably would be a season. But it ultimately kind of determines about how the coronavirus stuff kind of unfolds. If it gets worse, maybe not. Maybe they delay it a week or two. If it hopefully gets better, and everything might kind of line up on track. But football, like I said a few times already, it's probably the safest sport to bet that it'll probably be running on time, at least for right now, until we get more developments on how the cure and stuff for this coronavirus stuff goes around.
Yeah, for sure. Off topic, how are you feeling personally? Everything okay with you and your health, and everything good with the family and all?
Yeah, personally, I'm great. Like I told you earlier, my hours have kind of been cut back a little bit, which has been okay. I moved into the city last September, so living on my own with just me, myself, and I has been pretty great. But also when it comes to times like this, you're like, oh, man, I kind of do wish I was home right now and not having to really have to worry about all of this. But it is important for me to be here in the city because being out where I used to live in Crystal Lake in the suburbs, it'd be an hour and 10-minute drive to get to work. And now I'm 10 minutes right down Lakeshore Drive. So it's super convenient. And being one of the healthy producers at the station, that I kind of do a little bit of everything there, that in case somebody gets sick or in case somebody can't make it or whatever, I'm usually their go-to as a bit of a fill-in. So being close down here and being a essential worker, as I guess it's being put now, is helpful. And I've got the paperwork to say that if I get pulled over or anything and they're asking, what are you doing out and all this, I have a sheet that says, from my boss, it says I'm a media essential worker and I need to get to work. So
there you go.
Hopefully that'll get me out of any future things. Not that I'm planning on getting in trouble, but you know what I mean.
You're so cool. You have the WGN paperwork. Well, I have the Walgreens paperwork in my car. Good for you.
You're out there on the front lines, man. So that's seriously, like the delivery drivers. I mean, my sister works at Target. So, I mean, for all those people working in retail and in the grocery stores and stuff, that's huge to have them all up on the front lines. So thank you, Matt, for doing that.
Well, I'm always glad that we have at least some kind of entertainment going on, and I tune into radio all the time to help me digest anything I can handle. So we met during a radio class a long time ago with our favorite person in the world, Mr. George Czar.
Yes.
He's still there.
He's awesome. I miss George so much. I hope everybody at Columbia is also staying healthy and safe through all this.
Well, they just released a report that 2 people have tested positive for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they were on campus a couple weeks ago.
Students or faculty or?
They have not told us. I believe students, but I'm not going to confirm.
Okay.
But yeah, so far, it's only been 2 people. And we're, like everyone else, we're shut down and going to e-learning next week. So
I did hear that they canceled the ceremony and stuff for seniors. And that's a big bummer because, I graduated Columbia, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, besides the Cubs winning the World Series, my graduation at Columbia was probably one of the best days of my life, from just finally being done with school and celebrating with family that day,
Yeah.
and friends, of course, too, that I went to class with. That was one of my favorite days of all time so far. Besides, again, close second, close behind the Cubs winning the World Series, which was number one, and probably will be number one until I get married if that happens anytime soon. But with all that being said, I feel bad for the seniors, and I hope that at some point, maybe during the fall or winter months, when hopefully this is all past, that the school kind of reconsiders and has a little bit of a celebration for them and the families too, because
Yeah.
obviously the parents are the ones that help and put their kids through school, and every parent wants to see their kid walk across that stage with their diploma in hand. And so I hope for the seniors' sake that they get that.
So I want your opinion because as a current singer, do you feel I get why they did it? I obviously get why. Do you think they jumped too soon though?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know if they jumped too soon. I think the call of canceling it is smart.
Yeah.
But I think what they could have included, because I have I have a few friends who still attend Columbia, and they showed me what was sent out. And what I wish the school would have said is that we're exploring options to reschedule the ceremony for a later date.
Yeah.
But we'll get those details when more of news and stuff comes out about the future of all this. I mean, everybody's affected by this. There's nobody that's not affected by
Yeah.
coronavirus at this point. There's just not.
No.
If you're not affected by this, then you're probably I don't mean this to sound like an ageist here or anything like that, but you're probably in like high school. But even like that, high schoolers and middle schoolers and elementary schoolers are still affected. I mean, you have to be
I can't think of
really
anyone.
in a unique situation that has to be affected by this somehow.
West
Or that cannot be
Virginia.
affected by
I think
somehow.
West Virginia has like no cases.
What? Do they really?
I maybe I think it was like a week ago I read a report of one state being not affected, but it's been a week, so and
Yeah.
where our country now has the most cases in the world, so who knows now? I should probably start doing some fact checking on the show, but I can't. Maybe. All right, Critters. Well, thank you again for taking some time to talk to me. It's always great to talk to you. And of course, if you need anything, I will drive down and drop it off 6 feet away from you.
Well, thank you, buddy. I don't anticipate you to come down here and give me anything, but anytime you need to talk, let me know. I'm here for you as well.
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening to this episode of The Boy in the Plastic World. My thanks to Curtis Koch for calling and taking some time. A really nice guy and a great knowledge of sports, I must say. In case you don't know, we recorded this episode about an hour after I talked to James and Bridget last night, Saturday, March 28th. And this episode is being released on the 29th. So it was a long night last night of talking to great people. But anyways, I thought it would be appropriate to do some fact checking. I did say West Virginia had no cases or a case of the virus. I am mistakenly wrong. I'm very wrong. It has 124 cases. So my apologies for that. My heart goes out to West Virginia and everyone else. And I again apologize for saying it has nothing, because that is absolutely not true. Anyways, thanks again for listening to this episode. I hope you've been enjoying all the episodes so far, and I can't wait for whoever we talk to tomorrow. It should be great. Thanks so much. Bye.